Imagine a military coup so brazen, so utterly corrupt, that its secret financial architect wasn't a foreign power or a shadowy bank, but a cocaine kingpin. This isn't a Hollywood plot. This is Bolivia, 1980. And the man pulling the strings from behind a haze of cigar smoke and white powder was Roberto Suarez Gomez, a cattle rancher turned drug lord who would bankroll a dictatorship into existence. Welcome to Flashpoints, the wars that shaped us. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. In the late 1970s, Bolivia was a democracy, albeit a fragile one. But a powerful cocktail of political instability, economic crisis, and the exploding global demand for cocaine created a perfect storm. The country's vast, remote coca fields were becoming the raw material for a multi-billion-dollar industry. And into this vacuum stepped a man they called the King of Cocaine. Roberto Suarez saw an opportunity far greater than just trafficking. He envisioned a narco-state, a Bolivia where the government itself served the drug trade. The plan crystallized around a brutal army general named Luis García Meza. In July of 1980, as ballots from a democratic election were literally being counted, García Meza's tanks rolled into the capital, La Paz. It was a violent takeover, but what the public didn't see was the financial engine behind it. Suarez and his network provided the coup plotters with an estimated $2 million, a fortune at the time. This wasn't just donation, it was an investment. The money paid for weapons, for bribes, for loyalty. In essence, a drug cartel purchased a presidency. Once in power, the García Meza regime operated like a protection racket for the cocaine trade. Key government posts were handed to Suarez's associates and relatives. The notorious Rangers of the Mauser, a paramilitary death squad, acted as enforcers for both the state and the cartel, silencing journalists, politicians, and anyone who dared oppose the new order. The border regions became free trade zones for drug flights. The line between the palace and the cartel mansion didn't just blur, it vanished. For a brief, terrifying year, Bolivia was a nation where the Minister of the Interior might very well be coordinating a multi-ton drug shipment. But a dictatorship built on something as volatile as cocaine was destined to implode. The sheer, grotesque brutality of the regime turned the international community against it. The United States cut off aid. Neighboring countries condemned it. And perhaps most fatally, the cocaine money created a snake that ate its own tail. Corruption became so rampant, so chaotic, that the military structure itself began to fracture, with different factions vying for a piece of the narcotic pie. The economic mismanagement was staggering. By July 1981, just a year after the coup, García Meza was forced to resign, fleeing into a brief hiding. His exit was as ignoble as his entrance, brought down by the very forces he'd sold the state to. The aftermath was a long, painful reckoning. Bolivia would spend decades wrestling with the deep scars of the cocaine coup and the drug trade it empowered. García Meza and his key henchmen were eventually extradited and convicted for crimes including genocide and murder. Roberto Suarez was arrested and served time, a pale shadow of his former kingpin self. But the real legacy was the demonstration of a terrifying blueprint: how illicit wealth could, quite literally, hijack a sovereign nation, turning its institutions into puppets for a criminal enterprise. It makes you think about the foundations of power, doesn't it? We often picture coups as ideological battles, clashes of political vision. But the cocaine coup strips all that away to reveal a raw, transactional truth. It was a war for a market, fought with state violence, funded by addiction. It showed how quickly the pillars of a society can crumble when they're not built on law or legitimacy, but on the desperate, ephemeral high of dirty money. For Bolivia, it was a flashpoint that reshaped its destiny, a stark lesson in what happens when the state becomes the cartel's best customer. This has been Flashpoints, the wars that shaped us. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. This episode was produced by Light Knot Studios. You can find more deep dives into the pivotal conflicts that define our world at lightknotstudios.com.